Okay, next up is Mārama. Now, Mārama is directed by Teratoa Stappard. Hopefully I had said the name correctly. If I didn't, you can find out by listening to the interview with the writer-director by Greg. He interviewed that person, and they probably say their name correctly, so you can ignore my pronunciation if it's wrong. This is, once again, kind of interesting. We have these two different movies that are about versions of realizing kind of your place in the world and your identity in the world. And this one is similar in that sense, but very different in the way that it gets there. So it starts with our main character, Mary Stevens, played by Ariana Osborne. She is definitely front and center in this movie, the kind of the driving force of this movie. She's in nearly every scene, and she is the focal point. When she arrives basically in England from New Zealand, she arrives to become, well, she is called there by, this is a period piece, by the way, 1800s, mid-1800s, if I remember correctly. And right at the beginning, there's a little warning about New Zealand culture and some of the terrible things that have happened in New Zealand culture, and it might be somewhat triggering, so to be aware of that. It warns you up front. She arrives, she's been beckoned out there to saying that there's information about her parents. If she comes out there, this person who knew her parents, named Thomas Boyd, has written her and said, come to me and I can give you information about your parents. But the problem is, when she gets there, he has already died. She meets with a person that he knew, a Nathaniel, who is a owner of a large British manor, kind of your classic stone Gothic British manor in the 1800s. And Nathaniel, played by Toby Stephens, he basically says, I knew him very well, and if you're out here already, and I really respect your people. She's half Maori. I respect your people, and I would love if you could help be the nanny for my daughter, or actually my niece. It's his niece. And if you could be the nanny for my niece, this would be very, very helpful, and you could stay out here, and I can see what information I can find out for you about your parents. And that's how she gets pulled into this kind of mysterious Gothic storyline. And at the beginning, I was thinking, like, this is going to be your lower budget, indie, kind of a horror, Gothic horror movie, just full of jump scares and mysteries and all the tropes that you get in Gothic horror, which would be fine. And for the first 30 minutes or so, it was that, but it slowly starts to transform in a way that I think is really, really interesting. And in fact, a movie like this usually is going to progress to the point where the big reveal about her parents and her lineage would happen at the very end, and that would be the revelation. But here, you get pretty much all of that information probably in about the middle of the movie, so that the second half of the movie becomes much more how she copes with and how she deals with that information. Now, I'm not going to get into spoilers right here, but I might do a few spoilers at the end here. First of all, this part is not spoilers. Like most Gothic horror or mystery kind of movies, especially the classic ones, there's going to be locked doors and mysterious rooms and things like that. In this case, she keeps having visions. She sees mirrors and she sees people screaming and blood, and who are we seeing? What's happening? And early on, you discover that her sister was the mother of this young girl. Her sister had come out there apparently not that long ago. They had been split up as children, Mary and her sister, and they were twins. And the sister had come out there, basically married to Nathaniel's brother, who also lives there and is drunk now because the sister has died, disappeared apparently. But has she died? That's one of those Gothic mysteries. Is she really dead? Is she there somewhere? And that's the first kind of revelation, right? Very Gothic too, once again, like, a sister, a long-lost sister, and a mysterious past, and a child, and, what's really going on here, and who's this Nathaniel guy, and why is he interested in all of this? And the young girl wants to be taught more about Maori culture, but she's been getting some of it. And then there's even like a secret garden aspect, once again, almost like The Shining or something, where in the middle of this manor grounds, there's this kind of hedge, like I said, secret garden, where you've got like this circled hedge where inside of there, if you rotate this bench, it lets you inside of this hedge circle, and inside there's a perfectly preserved traditional, I wouldn't call it a hut exactly, it's traditional wooden home from Maori culture. And when Mary sees this, she almost has like a, I don't know, like a out of body experience, or she like faints and she has visions and stuff, like something really bad about that. When the little girl points out to her the meaning of some of the parts of this structure, but also says it's locked. You can't go in there. It's forbidden to go in there. So once again, that's a secret. So all these things are basically leading up to what you think is going to be the big reveal. Although most of those reveals, like I said, happen in the midpoint of the movie. Once again, the performance of Ariana Osborne is fantastic in this movie. Kind of, she goes from the meek, servile, traditional kind of woman's role, especially a half Maori woman's role in British culture in the beginning of this movie, to by the end of the movie, she is fiercely standing her ground in several different ways. So I really, really love her performance, and I love kind of the arc of her character in this movie. And like I said before, probably the first third of this movie, I was like, well, this is a standard sort of movie. Second third of this movie, I was like, well, this is pretty cool. This is a little different than I thought. The revelations happen and other things start happening. And the final third is really fantastic. And I think the fact that it really sticks the landing with this movie, and I think really goes out with a bang, just elevates this movie all the more. I was trying to think where I was rating this movie, between 3.5, 4 stars, 4.5 stars, I think I'm going to lean to 4.5 stars in this, because I think the final act is so good in this movie, and kind of surprising. Not surprising in the sense that you couldn't have guessed what some of the relationships were, but surprising in the way that it plays out for the characters. I think it really, really elevates this movie and makes it something special. So I'm going to go 4.5 stars for overall for Mārama. And I am going to go into a few spoilers on this movie as well. One thing I'd like to mention really quick before I get into the spoilers, though, I talk about it being Gothic, and a whole bunch of this movie is about colonialism, right? And the effects of colonialism on Maori culture, and specifically on the character of Mary and her family. And I love the fact that you take this highly English Western kind of story structure and format in this kind of, like I said, this Gothic horror scenario, and the movie itself kind of appropriates that and reshapes that and takes it and uses it for its own good, which I think in informal terms of the movie itself is doing to this kind of Western structure what colonialism itself has done to the Maori culture. And I think that's fantastic. Like, it is stealing this form that's so like English and Western, and basically twisting it and turning it into something that is for the use and for the storytelling and for the ownership of the Maori culture. And I love that about the overall format of this. Now, a few of the quick spoilers. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but I'm going to give you some of the broad strokes here, which I thought was really cool. First of all, through the first part of the movie, you think you're heading up for the whole movie to be uncovering these family details, but most of them get uncovered in the first half of the movie. Like I said, you find out that her sister was her twin sister, was the woman of the house who had the young little girl. You find out that she either went to an asylum or she died or she was murdered. Either way, she is gone. You find out that possibly Nathaniel was also involved, and you think it pretty quickly. You think he was involved in bringing the girls there or taking the girls from Mary's parents, Mary being one of the girls. And you get the idea really quickly. He's a bad dude. And he has like a right-hand man too. I don't know if I wrote down his name. I should have. There's this one right-hand man dude who's got the tattoos and everything, the face tattoos, but he's also like a very bad dude. You kind of get the feeling like he's the guy that would do all the dirty work for Nathaniel when he wants something done. And there's this whole like sub story of wailing and stuff going on, and murdering the whales, and seeing that kind of blood and the way they're taking these great giant creatures and just killing them for things to hang on their walls and perfume and just using them for whatever they need. That kind of a whole heritage of whaling being terrible. And that is playing into this as well. But really the most fantastic moments, spoiler-wise, in this movie are basically Mary has found out almost all of the secrets. She's found out essentially Nathaniel and all the stuff has been evil, that essentially her and her sister were taken and essentially raised to be wives to these white dudes. And you get the feeling very quickly that they're grooming Mary to be similar because they want her to wear the same dress that her sister used to wear and take care of her sister's daughter. So it's like kind of they're trying to push her into that same role. And you get the feeling Nathaniel kind of is obsessed with her as well, obsessed with Mary. And in the final third, it starts with this huge party that they're having. And all of their friends, the white dude's friends and everybody are over. And they're all dressed in like Maori drag. And like it's like the most overt version of like both mocking and just talk about stealing and just abusing the culture of another people just for your own like entertainment and just making a mockery. And it's just really grotesque. And she's there watching it almost as if she's supposed to be enjoying the show. Everybody's just, like I said, dressed in essentially like Maori drag. And the right-hand man dude for Nathaniel just does this like this whaler's dance where he's just making fun of killing the whales and of the Maori culture, and just it's just really horrifying to her, and that just sends her over the edge. It just sends her into just full-on warrior rage mode, and the rest of the movie is her just taking back everything. I mean, she kills that one dude, the right-hand man dude, pretty brutally in a pretty great way. She has this fantastic kind of huge, puffy Victorian red gown, which obviously is just makes her look more fierce, but also it's opulent, and the whole time she's doing these murders and stuff, she does that. She doesn't do like a ton of murders, she does that murder. And of course, this leads to the final revelation where she finds secret passageways, which you always do in these movies, secret passageways that lead underground and lead back into the inside of that little cabin / little Maori home that they have recreated in the center of their grounds. And in there, Nathaniel is waiting for her, and Nathaniel shows his greatest trophies, because all these things from Maori culture are just artifacts, trophies. They'll take artwork and weapons and all these things and just put them on their wall and put them behind glass, because that's what you do when you're in a colonial culture. Well, inside this little home, he's kept his greatest trophies, which are literally the mummified heads of Mary's parents and Mary's sister. He has a box there, and he opens it up to take out Mary's sister's head as his final trophy. And of course, that's her last straw. And of course, she will end up taking him out in a fit of rage and a fit of fury and revenge. And then the final act is for her to reclaim the heads of her family and take the young girl with her and take them off. And presumably, they don't really say, but it looks like in the last shot that she has taken them back to New Zealand. That's what it looks like. And that she's finally brought them back to their rightful home. Really, really cool movie. I like this quite a bit. 4.5 stars for Mārama.